Love ain't always loud. It ain't always obvious. Sometimes the ones who love the hardest are the ones who struggle the most to show it. I'm talking about those avoidant folks. You know who I mean? The people who build walls around their hearts like they're protecting a castle. They'll tell you they don't need anybody. They'll act like they're fine being alone. But deep down, they're just scared. Scared of being hurt, scared of being seen, scared of loving somebody who might not love them back. When an avoidant person starts letting you in emotionally, even just a little, it might not seem like a big deal at first glance, but for someone with an avoidant heart, that's like opening a heavy door that's been locked for years. See, avoidants have built those walls for a reason. Somewhere along the way, they learned that getting too close leads to pain. They taught themselves that independence equals safety, that emotions mean weakness, and that love can't be trusted. So when they start to crack that door open, when they start letting someone peek inside their private world, it means something deep is shifting. It's not just about sharing feelings, it's about learning to trust again. You might notice it in small, subtle ways. Maybe they start telling you about their day, not just what happened, but how they felt about it. That's big for them. Maybe they start asking for your opinion or seeking your comfort when they're struggling. To most people, that's normal connection. But for an avoidant, that's a breakthrough. It's them admitting they can rely on someone without losing control. They're learning that love doesn't have to mean surrendering their independence. It can mean sharing it. When they start to let you see behind that composed, distant exterior, that's a form of emotional intimacy that comes hard-earned. Now, this process isn't smooth. One moment they might open up, in the next they might retreat again. You'll see them test the waters just a little, reveal, then a step back to see how you'll react. That's not manipulation. That's fear management. They're watching to see if it's safe to stay open. If you meet that openness with patience and understanding instead of pressure, they'll feel seen instead of judged. And that's when trust starts to take root. An avoidant doesn't fall for words. They fall for consistency. Every time you show them you're steady, that you don't weaponize their vulnerability, they inch closer. Every small confession they make is a victory, a declaration that you've become someone safe. When they let you in emotionally, it's also a sign that they're tired of being on guard all the time. Avoidants often crave love just as much as anyone else. They just don't know how to handle it without feeling exposed. So when they begin to share their inner thoughts, their fears, their insecurities, it's them saying, I want you to know me. That's rare. That's sacred. That's love trying to grow through fear. And if you pay attention, you'll see that letting you in isn't a casual act for them. It's an act of courage. So when that avoidance starts letting you inside the emotional fortress, don't overlook it. Don't rush it. Every little step toward openness is their heart saying, you matter to me more than my fear. And that kind of love, quiet, hesitant, but real, is one of the most honest forms there is. It may not come wrapped in grand gestures, but it carries more weight than words ever could. When an avoidant person starts making small efforts to stay connected instead of running away, that's a powerful sign that their feelings for you go far beyond what they can easily express. Avoidants have a pattern. When things get too close, when emotions start to rise, they retreat. They vanish into silence, busy themselves with distractions, or build emotional distance to feel safe again. So when that same person starts choosing to stay connected, even in small, quiet ways, that's not random. That's growth. That's love whispering louder than fear. It might not look like the big romantic gestures you see in movies, but for them, replying to your text when they usually wouldn't, calling you back after an argument, or finding reasons to spend time with you, all of that is their version of, I'm trying. You'll notice that avoidance tests the waters with subtle actions. Maybe they'll send you a message after a few days of distance, not because they suddenly became outgoing, but because they miss you. They might not say, I miss you, but their actions reveal it. Maybe they check in to see how your day went or bring up an inside joke just to reconnect. That's their way of bridging the gap between you without feeling overwhelmed. They're learning to replace avoidance with presence. It's not easy for them. Every act of reaching out is a battle against their own instinct to withdraw. But when they start doing it anyway, it means something real is growing inside them, something worth fighting their fears for. See, connection for an avoidant isn't about constant communication. It's about intentional effort. They'll show it in small gestures that might seem ordinary to you, but are monumental for them. Maybe they remember something you mentioned weeks ago and bring it up again. Maybe they start making time in their schedule just to be around you. These are not coincidences. These are emotional investments from someone who doesn't give those easily. They're learning to show up, to stay, even when part of them wants to flee. And that's love in motion. Even in moments of conflict, if you notice them trying to resolve things instead of disappearing, understand what that means. For avoidance, confrontation often feels unsafe. But if they care enough to stay and work through it, they're breaking their own patterns. That's not weakness, that's strength. There's someone say, I'm scared, but I don't want to lose you. They might not have the words, but their effort speaks volume. Lure for them isn't about grand declarations. It's about doing the hard thing. Choosing to stay emotionally connected, even when every fiber of their being wants to run. So when you see those small signs, those text messages, those efforts to keep the bond alive, those moments when they reach out instead of pulling away, understand you're witnessing something rare. You're watching a guarded heart begin to trust. Those small efforts are not small at all. They're the proof that you've become someone worth staying close to. And for an avoidant, that's as real as love gets. When an avoidant person starts opening up about their fears or past pain, that's not just a casual moment. It's a breakthrough. Avoidants are wired to protect themselves from emotional exposure. They've often spent years perfecting the art of hiding what hurts them, burying old wounds under layers of control and self-reliance. They'll tell you they're fine when they're not. They'll laugh off things that once broke them. But when they begin to share pieces of that story with you, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the family issues, or the moments that made them close their heart, it means they see you as someone safe. Because for an avoidant, vulnerability is not a habit, it's a risk. And they don't take that risk unless love has softened something deep inside. You might notice it starts small. Maybe they make a comment like, I don't really trust people easily, or I've been through some things. That's not just a statement. It's an invitation to look deeper. And if you listen without judgment, they'll start to share more. They might tell you about the person who betrayed their trust, or how they learned to depend only on themselves because no one else showed up. When they do that, they're not just talking, they're handing you the key to understanding how they love and why they fear. They're saying, here's the part of me I don't show anyone, and that's sacred ground. Opening up about pain isn't easy for anyone, but for avoidance it's terrifying. They associate emotional honesty with weakness because somewhere along the line, someone used their vulnerability against them. So now when they choose to speak their truth, it's not because they suddenly became comfortable with emotions. It's because they've decided you're worth the discomfort. They're learning that not everyone will leave when things get real. Every time they share a piece of their story, they're unlearning the idea that closeness leads to loss. And that process takes courage. You'll see them hesitate. You'll see them pause before revealing too much. And sometimes you'll see them regret saying it right after. That's not because they don't trust you. It's because they're fighting years of emotional self-protection. But if you stay gentle, if you hold space without pushing them to say more, they'll start to feel something new, safety. And for someone who's been avoiding emotional intimacy their whole life, safety is love's greatest gift. When an avoidant shares their fears, whether it's fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, or fear of not being enough, it's their way of letting you into the real story behind their silence. They're showing you that the distance you sometimes feel isn't about you. It's about the battles they fight inside. So when they finally open up, that's not them being emotional, that's them being brave. Because love for an avoidant isn't just saying, I love you. It's saying, here's my pain, and I trust you not to run. And if they reach that point with you, you can be sure it's real love growing through their deepest fear. When an avoidant person chooses to stay during conflict instead of disappearing, that's a massive shift from their usual pattern. You see, avoidants are wired to protect their peace by escaping discomfort. The moment a disagreement or emotional tension appears, their instinct tells them to retreat, to pull back, shut down, or vanish until things feel safe again. It's not because they don't care. It's because confrontation feels dangerous to them. It stirs up fears of rejection, judgment, or emotional loss. But when that same person starts staying through the storm instead of running, that's a clear sign their feelings for you have grown deeper than their fears. It means they value the connection enough to push through the very thing they used to avoid. Staying doesn't always look dramatic. It might look like them listening instead of walking away, texting back instead of going silent, or taking a deep breath before responding instead of shutting down. Those might seem like small things, but for someone who's used to disappearing at the first sign of conflict, that's progress. That's love evolving. Avoidants hate losing control of their emotions, and arguments can make them feel exposed. But when they start choosing presence over distance, that's their way of saying, you matter more than my comfort. They're not used to fighting for relationships. They're used to protecting themselves from them. So when they start staying to work things out, it's not just about fixing the problem. It's about showing commitment. You might notice them try to explain their side instead of avoiding the conversation entirely. They may struggle with the right words, stumble through their feelings, or seem distant even while they're trying to engage. Don't mistake that for indifference. That's courage in action. They're learning how to stay connected even when emotions feel overwhelming. And that's one of the hardest lessons for an avoidant to learn, to remain open in the middle of discomfort. They might even need time to cool off before they can come back to talk. But the fact that they come back at all is proof that they care. Avoidants don't circle back unless their heart tells them to. When they stay, what they're really saying is, I don't want to lose you over this. That's a huge shift for someone who used to believe walking away was safer. It's their version of fighting for the relationship. You may not see grand apologies or emotional breakdowns, but their willingness to stay engaged, to listen, or to compromise is how they show love. For an avoidant, staying means choosing connection over protection. So if you ever find yourself in conflict with an avoidant and they don't disappear, if they're still there, still talking, still trying in their quiet, careful way, understand that's not just maturity. That's love growing stronger than fear. They've learned that losing you would hurt more than facing the discomfort of the moment. That's the turning point where their heart chooses to stay, not because it's easy, but because it's real. When an avoidant person starts showing love through actions instead of just words, that's when you begin to see the real depth of their feelings. Avoidants often struggle to express emotions verbally. Saying I love you or I miss you might feel unnatural or even scary to them. They've spent much of their lives relying on themselves. So showing affection openly can make them feel exposed. But when they truly love someone, they begin to communicate through what they do, not what they say. Their love language becomes effort, care, and quiet consistency. It's subtle, but it's powerful. When an avoidant acts in love, they're proving that you've become someone worth stepping outside their emotional comfort zone for. You'll notice it in little gestures first. Maybe they start helping you without being asked, fixing something, handling a problem, or remembering small details you didn't even think they noticed. That's their version of saying, I care. They'll make sure you're okay, that you have what you need, and that your world runs a little smoother because of them. It's not about grand romantic statements. It's about silent devotion. They might bring you your favorite drink, check in on your day, or show up when they know you're struggling. Every act, no matter how small, is a declaration of love from someone who finds words too risky. Avoidants often feel uncomfortable with emotional expression, but when they love you, they express it in practical ways. They'll take responsibility, show reliability, and protect your peace in ways that feel natural to them. Their actions say, you can count on me. They may not talk much about feelings, but they'll make sure you feel secure. They won't tell you how much they care. They'll prove it over time. You'll see it in how they treat you when no one's watching, how they respect your space, and how they try to show up even when they don't fully understand how to. That's their way of bridging the emotional gap. For an avoidant, actions are safer than words because actions can't be rejected. Words are vulnerable, but effort feels solid. So when they start taking action to make you feel love, they're doing something that still feels safe yet deeply meaningful. You might not get constant affection, but you'll get loyalty. You'll get consistency. You'll get the kind of love that builds slowly but never wavers. And that's a love that's often stronger than the loud, emotional kind. Sometimes their love looks like patience when you're upset or quiet presence when you're hurting. They may not know what to say, but they'll stay by your side. They'll handle the small things, take care of the details, and try to lighten your load. That's love in its purest form, the kind that shows up even when it can't speak. So when you see those quiet actions, understand that for an avoidant, those are their love letters written in motion. They're not just doing things, they're saying without words, "You matter to me more than my fears ever could." When an avoidant person allows themselves to be vulnerable because they trust you, that's one of the clearest signs that they've fallen deeply in love. Vulnerability doesn't come easily to them. It's something they've learned to avoid their entire lives. For an avoidant, showing emotion, asking for help, or admitting weakness feels like handing someone a weapon that could be used against them. They're used to being the strong one, the calm one, the one who doesn't need anyone. But when they love you, something starts to shift inside. They begin to realize that real connection requires letting someone see behind the mask. And when they start doing that, when they let their guard down, even just a little, it's not a casual act. It's a rare moment of trust that means you've reached a part of them no one else has. You'll see it in small, quiet ways. Maybe one day they admit they're scared of losing you. Maybe they tell you about something that makes them insecure. Or maybe they finally say the words, "I need you," after years of pretending they didn't need anyone. Those moments are monumental for them because they're not built on comfort. They're built on courage. For an avoidant, being vulnerable feels like standing in front of a mirror without armor. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and it's risky. But when they allow it, it's because they trust that you'll handle their heart with care. That's the kind of love that doesn't come easily, but when it does, it runs deep. They might not express vulnerability with tears or emotional speeches. Instead, they'll do it through honesty. They'll start telling you when something bothers them instead of hiding it. They'll confess fears about the relationship or their past, not because they want pity, but because they finally believe you won't use their openness against them. Vulnerability for them is not about emotion, it's about truth. And when they feel safe enough to show you their truth, that's love in its purest form. What's powerful about this stage is that avoidants begin to find peace in connection. The walls they once built for protection start to feel unnecessary because they found someone who makes them feel safe enough to be themselves. They stop pretending to be unbothered and start showing genuine emotion. They might share their dreams, their worries, or even their regrets. They'll let you see the sides of them they've always kept hidden, the softness beneath their strength, the uncertainty beneath their confidence. That's the part of them reserved for someone truly special. When an avoidant becomes vulnerable, they're not losing control, they're choosing to trust. And that choice is everything. It's their way of saying, "I believe in you. I believe in us." They might not even say it out loud, but you'll feel it in the way they start being honest, open, and emotionally present. That's when love for them stops being a threat and becomes a safe place. And if they reach that level with you, it's because they finally realized that you're not just someone they love, you're someone they can be real with.